Okay, back on the Rich Van Tassel channel, final segment today, and we are giving you my award, or excuse me, my honors for the 2015-2016 season. Starting with the All NBA teams, our first team, obviously Stephen Curry, the MVP. My vote for MVP, and certainly going to win the MVP. At one of the guards, the other guard, Russell Westbrook, who's had a sensational season. And you had to put both of these guys on the first team. Russell Westbrook is just an outstanding player. This guy really needs to continue to be recognized for his greatness. He just does everything on the court. And Steph Curry, obviously, we discussed him with the MVP. We know what he's all about. The forwards, LeBron James of the Cleveland Cavaliers, again, another stellar season this year. No surprise there. And Kevin Durant of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Big time comeback season for Kevin Durant following an injury riddled 2014-2015 season. And my center may come as a surprise. I am going to give it to DeMarcus Cousins. We all know how much I like DeMarcus Cousins. There are a lot of other guys. Certainly the Sacramento Kings team did not play well, bringing up Cousins right now. However, 26.9 points, 11.5 rebounds, 1.4 blocks per game. You simply cannot ignore those numbers. This guy needs to get out of Sacramento so we can start appreciating just how great of a player he really is. So there is your first team. Again, Steph Curry and Russell Westbrook, the guards. The forwards are LeBron James and Kevin Durant. And the center is DeMarcus Cousins. Moving on to our second team. Damian Lillard, the point guard of the Portland Trailblazers. What can you say about this guy? He's just great. Certainly, he's not getting the media exposure up there in Portland in the Pacific Northwest, but he has been great this year. And when we were discussing Terry Stotts, he helped take this team into the playoffs when many people did not expect they would. James Harden, Houston Rockets, the other guard. A lot of tumultuous situation, or a lot of tumultuous times in Houston this year. They barely made the playoffs. They finished 500. Obviously, there was the firing of Kevin McHale during the season. James Harden still put up 29 points per game, though. 7.5 assists, 6.1 rebounds. You just cannot deny those numbers, and I don't think this team would have been close, especially with the lack of offensive production. Lack of offensive usage they got from Dwight Howard this year. But James Harden, 29 points per game. What can you say? This guy can score with the best of them, and he can still win a game in this series against the Golden State Warriors. The forwards, Kawhi Leonard, the San Antonio Spurs, continues to improve, continues his ascension up the league. And Paul George of the Indiana Pacers, we did a player focus on him not long ago. A bunch of 40-point games this year. Took that very average at best Indiana Pacers team to the playoffs. Center, Draymond Green, Golden State Warriors. They were a team that won 73 games. Certainly a lot of the talk goes to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the Splash Brothers. But Draymond Green is as important to this team as anyone, especially in today's NBA. He can stretch the floor with his threes, and he really competes very hard. So there's your second team. Damian Lillard, James Harden, the guards. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, the forwards. And Draymond Green, the center. Now the third team. Might take a little heat for this one, but the more I thought about it and the more I realized that he is deserving of it, I am giving one of the guard spots to Isaiah Thomas, the point guard of the Boston Celtics. Now, we know I'm a Celtic fan. People are going to say, "Where's Chris Paul?" He's not on the other guard spot either. Neither is Kyle Lowry. Chris Paul, again, I think he plays with a lot of talent. Certainly, Blake Griffin had been hurt for a lot of the season, and people would say this is one of Chris Paul's best seasons. Just under 10 assists compared to Isaiah Thomas, who only had 6.2 assists. But again, he outscored Chris Paul, and I don't think that the Celtics have nearly the talent that the Golden State Warriors, or not the Golden State Warriors, the Los Angeles Clippers, or the Toronto Raptors have. Kyle Lowry, and he outplayed Kyle Lowry. Shot a little better than Kyle Lowry, or either right there. I'm not sure if the numbers were just better or right there, but he was certainly close with assists, averaged a few more points. Kyle Lowry, a little bit of a better defender. And they shot just at 42.8 for Isaiah Thomas, and I believe it was 42.9 for Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry did have 0.2 of assists better this year. But again, Isaiah Thomas completely carried this team to the playoffs this year, and I thought about it, and he is deserving of that spot. Yeah, Kyle Lowry's 6.4 assists, 42.7 to Isaiah Thomas's 42.8, and a point better for Isaiah Thomas. And again, I think between those three teams, the Celtics are clearly lacking in the talent department. So we went into a little soliloquy there, so to speak, but Isaiah Thomas is getting the third team spot at point guard for the Boston Celtics. Congratulations to him. The other guard, DeMar DeRozan of the Toronto Raptors, a very impressive season, well over 20 points per game. He's going to be a free agent, and there's certainly going to be a lot of teams bidding for his services. Let's see if he can, how far they can carry this Toronto Raptors team into the playoffs. Your forwards, Paul Millsap, quiet year for the Atlanta Hawks. Obviously, we've been talking about him. The Celtics are going to have to figure out that equation. But over 17 points, a very, very impressive year for Paul Millsap this year. And the other forward is LaMarcus Aldridge, big-time free agent signing coming over from the Portland Trail Blazers. He had a very good season this year. Bringing that up. Yeah, Paul Millsap, look at these numbers. 17.3 points per game, 9 rebounds, 1.7 blocks, 1.8 steals per game. It's just outstanding. LaMarcus Aldridge, 18.1, 8.6, 1.1 blocks per game, shot over 51%. Big free agent signing. And the center, the defensive player of the year, Hassan Whiteside, certainly did some good things on the offensive end as well. Averaged, over 14 points. Just going to check that real quick. Trying to go back and forth here. I'm sorry. Just can't memorize all this stuff off the top of my head. But Hassan Whiteside, as the defensive player of the year at center, certainly you have to consider him for the All-NBA team and still put up, over 14 points per game of 14.2, 11.8 rebounds. Hassan Whiteside, your third-team center. So there it is. Isaiah Thomas and DeMar DeRozan, the guards on the third team. Paul Millsap, LaMarcus Aldridge, the forwards. Hassan Whiteside, the center for the third team. Now, moving on, our all-defensive team. This is only 2 teams. The All-NBA team is 3 teams. The All-Defensive team is just 2 teams. Your guards, Avery Bradley of the Boston Celtics, shutdown defender. We saw that in the Golden State game. Kyle Lowry will get this spot, over 2 steals per game. Impressive season for Kyle Lowry. Kawhi Leonard, shutdown defender on the outside at forward. Will take anyone. He'll even take guards. And he is very, very key to San Antonio's success, and we're going to see how key he can be come playoff time, most notably in the Western Conference Finals. Paul George of the Indiana Pacers, a guy very similar to Kawhi Leonard, can really defend. He's long, he's athletic, and he is going to have to carry this team, which I don't think will happen past the Toronto Raptors. But a big year for Paul George, big comeback year. Want to give shout-outs to him. We did it in the player profile, but Paul George really deserves a lot of credit this season. Hats off, Paul. Congratulations on a very good season. Hassan Whiteside, obviously the center on the first team, the defensive player of the year for my vote. Your second team, Tony Allen, maybe a bit off reputation, but the guy still gets the job done, especially with all those injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Chris Paul did have right around 2 steals per game this year. He is going to get it for the Los Angeles Clippers, the 2 guards on the second team. LeBron James, the forward for the Cleveland Cavaliers, maybe also a bit on reputation, but this guy can still shut down anyone at any time he wants to. And the other forward spot, Jay Crowder of the Boston Celtics. Again, you can say I'm a homer. Jay Crowder, though, gives up a little bit of size. He did have 1.7 steals per game this year. He'll match up, and he will take on even the toughest challenges. He's only 6'6", playing small forward. And we've seen how the Celtics have struggled, especially late in the year, with the Jay Crowder injury and incorporating him back. A lot of teams have gone on big runs, and I think a big factor in that is the Jay Crowder injury because he's that good of a defender. Center Andre Drummond for the second team of the Detroit Pistons. This was a guy who had a very similar year to Hassan Whiteside. Bringing him up now. Had a ton of rebounds. He was an absolute monster on the glass at 14.8. 1.4 blocks per game. So Andre Drummond, and certainly I was considering him for an All-NBA team as well, but I just like Hassan Whiteside a little more with his blocks. I think that the blocks dictate a bit more how you're going to be as far as a defensive player. Andre Drummond, almost 2 blocks less per game for the Detroit Pistons. So there are your all-defensive teams. The first team, Avery Bradley, Kyle Lowry, the guards, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, the forwards, Hassan Whiteside, the center. Your second team, Tony Allen, the Memphis Grizzlies, Chris Paul, the Los Angeles Clippers of the guards, LeBron James of the Cavaliers, Jay Crowder of the Celtics, the forwards, and Andre Drummond of the Detroit Pistons, the center. Moving along now, we have our all-rookie team. First team, this is two teams as well, not three teams like the All-NBA team. First team, D'Angelo Russell. Now we've seen the problems he had with the Nick Young situation. That shouldn't take away from the type of player this guy has been this year. Certainly we'll see how long he sticks around in Los Angeles, but this is a guy that they're going to be looking to build around, and he had a good season. Getting him right now. Sorry about that, folks. D'Angelo Russell. 13.2 points, only 3.3 assists. Now, there was a lot of talk about how good of a passer this guy is, but that's where he will need to improve, is his passing. But D'Angelo Russell, a first team. For the all-rookie, a second team is going to be Devin Booker of the Phoenix Suns. This is at the guard positions. 13.8, 2.6 points per game, 13.8 points, 2.6 assists, and 2.5 rebounds. Give him a lot of credit. The Phoenix Suns have had an awful year, but certainly he has played very well. At the forwards, Miles Turner of the Indiana Pacers and Kristaps Porzingis of the New York Knicks. Miles Turner, 10.3 points, 5.5 rebounds. Kristaps Porzingis obviously was a very good pickup, the fourth pick, showed a lot of promise this year. The center, of course, Karl Anthony Towns, the rookie of the year. No questions here. Your second team, Emmanuel Mudiay of the Denver Nuggets. This is at the guard positions, and Josh Richardson. Emmanuel Mudiay put up a very good year for a Denver Nuggets team that I think had a season. You're obviously not happy when you lose nearly 50 games, but certainly a year that they didn't embarrass themselves, so they should feel happy with the way they finished. He had 12.8 points, 5.5 assists. Josh Richardson of the Miami Heat, another guy who played very well. He is the other guard. Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets, as well as Justice Winslow of the Miami Heat are the forwards. So two guys on the all-rookie second team. Jokic right at 10 points per game, 7 rebounds. Shot at... He shot over 50% from the floor, 33% from three, so a guy who Denver can build around along with Emmanuel Mudiay. Justice Winslow of the Miami Heat. He had 6.4 points, 1.5 assists, but 5.2 rebounds. Only had 28.6 minutes per game. Miami drafted very well. And then Willie Cauley-Stein of the Sacramento Kings is the all-rookie second-team center. Now, exclusive, at least what I think is exclusive to my channel, is the all-reserve team. The all-reserve team is quite simple. 6 Man of the Year candidates each position. It's one team. The two guards, Jeremy Lin of the Charlotte Hornets, Evan Turner of the Boston Celtics. Jeremy Lin has provided so much needed offense for the Charlotte Hornets off the bench. Evan Turner, a glue guy off the bench, can do it all. He gets points, he gets assists, he gets rebounds, and we talked about it when we were discussing the 6 Man of the Year race. Filled in for Jay Crowder pretty admirably. But again, we discussed the Celtics did struggle a bit with Jay Crowder, and that's really where I had Enes Kanter, the leader in the clubhouse before. That's why I moved even more towards him for the 6 Man of the Year, because of the way the Celtics struggled just a bit in Jay Crowder's absence. Evan Turner played well, but he still wasn't spectacular. The forwards, Will Barton of the Denver Nuggets. Again, another building stone for the Denver Nuggets. And Tristan Thompson, a guy who did start 34 games, but this guy is just a key rebounder, had right at 9 rebounds per game. I'm going to actually check that. I want to see how many minutes he was playing, because he did not log that many. This guy is a big-time rebounder, and he really gives teams fits, especially second units fits. Yeah, 9 rebounds per game, only 27.7 minutes per game, and still put up 7.8 points, and they don't really run any offense for him. And over half a block a game. So Tristan Thompson, the forward of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then Enes Kanter, obviously the 6 Man of the Year, will get the center spot for the all-reserve team. So what I believe is the first edition ever of the all-reserve team, certainly for my channel. I don't know if anyone else had the good idea, but your two guards are Jeremy Lin and Evan Turner. Your forwards are Will Barton and Tristan Thompson. And your center is Enes Kanter. So there's your postseason honors edition. and we will be giving you game recaps as fast as I can coming up for the NBA playoffs. Be sure to stay tuned for that. And hey, we're excited. It's the NBA playoffs, so I can't wait. It'll start tomorrow on Saturday, and we'll be doing all we can to get as much news to you as possible. Thank you all so much.